Recording in progress.
Welcome in to the latest episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real _ G Warner. It is Saturday, November 30th, just barely here in the East Coast of the United States. And I will be going through tonight's soccer card for this entire weekend is more accurate as I scramble to figure out where the heck my YouTube page just went as I am trying to go live on every streaming platform possible. Thank you, of course, for your support wherever you're watching. If you're on YouTube at the real _ G Warner or Instagram at the real _ G Warner, I really appreciate that. If you are somewhere else, maybe listen to this afterwards on I think it would probably be Spotify at called Betting the Pitch, or on the same Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts. Appreciate you there as well. And now I have the link, and now I can stop stalling. It is posted on my Twitter. It's out there. If anyone wants to join live, feel free to fast forward or rewind, get where you're trying to go. And it is now time to get to this podcast. So we're 13-3 our last 16 episodes, putting out an ultimate best bet. So what I do is I pick my favorite bet from each of the leagues, England, Spain, Italy, Germany, and France, and then ultimately pick my favorite one from all of them, put it up on Instagram and on YouTube at the real _ G Warner on both those platforms. And then let's see if we can get to 14-3. A little behind with a huge college basketball slate this week with all the Feast Week tournaments, but we will be catching up as we go and trying to deliver some more winners your way. So we'll start in England, like I said, where the money is. And for the first matchup, we don't have an early game, thank God. But we'll start with Brentford hosting Leicester City. Currently, Brentford a 1-goal favorite at home. All the juice on Leicester away from home. Totals 3 on this one. Just a little bit more to under than to over. So Leicester City just parted ways with Steve Cooper. That should mean that they can't get much more conservative than they were under him, though kind of a weird firing. I don't know that anyone really expected his sacking, but it happened. And where do Leicester go from there? We'll see, because there's the I guess mythological new manager bounce, which does seem to work a little bit. A lot of the Leicester players, I don't think they were giving less than 100%. I think it was probably some sort of thing with Steve Cooper internally, which seemed to happen at Nottingham Forest, the big rival of Leicester City as well. But with that all said, Brentford is a 1-goal favorite. Just doesn't feel like the right thing. They did get Christian Norgard's red card suspension overturned. He should be back and available for this matchup, and he's very important in their midfield. But I think that will help the Leicester City total stay under. Maybe not help Leicester City because they'll have to worry about him both offensively and I think really defensively. He's an important piece to it. But I think my biggest interest in this one is under 3, but I also lean to the Leicester City full goal of insurance away from home. Move next to Crystal Palace hosting Newcastle. Calling Palace a quarter-goal underdog at home, a little bit more juice. Over-under is 2 3/4, and it is juiced pretty heavily to under right now, as it should be. Newcastle coming off a clean sheet, getting shut out at home against West Ham United of all teams. 2 corner kick goals, I think it was, and that's kind of what did it on Monday night. Quick turnaround for Newcastle relatively, but this is a big step for them going on the road where they've struggled. They've been playing a lot better this season than they did last year, but I think that's also as a response to lowered expectations. Crystal Palace have been really bad. They're still in the relegation zone right now in the Premier League, and that's not anywhere near how well they were playing end of last season, but at this point, I think the big question is what can Crystal Palace do to score goals, because we haven't seen a lot of them. I don't know that Eberechi Eze will be available for this matchup. He's been gone for a while. Selling Michael Olise to Bayern München has certainly not helped Crystal Palace goal scoring, and they've been really trying to figure out how to play without him. I'm a believer in Oliver Glasner, the manager previously from the German Bundesliga, all over the place at Wolfsburg and Eintracht Frankfurt when they won the Europa League. I just think ultimately this is going to be a tight match. It's going to be low scoring, and Crystal Palace are really good at home, right? A big home crowd advantage. And I think we see that in this matchup. So really like Crystal Palace getting that quarter of a goal at home as a draw will win you some of a bet, and also lean under 2 3/4. I just don't think that Newcastle will go away from home and score many goals. Don't really know why they score so many at home anyway, but certainly don't see that happening away from home. Moving next to Wolves hosting Bournemouth, coming off a big win for them, especially playing all fullbacks. Essentially, they had no center backs available besides Totti. Bournemouth come in as a decent favorite right now with all the juice on the Bournemouth side. Maybe this moves to Wolves a quarter goal underdog. That's certainly something I'll be looking forward to and certainly be looking for. Totals 2 3/4 in this one, juice all the way to over. We might get to 3, and I'd be looking for that as well. The days of backing Bournemouth as our underdog just seem to be gone, unfortunately. I think they have proven that they deserve the respect that they're getting, which is nice, but I'm certainly looking for a little bit different of a scenario, I got to say, and fear that Bournemouth's days of being a home underdog are maybe not going to be around for a while, unless they continue to struggle, because they've not been playing great. I think there are some problems with their side right now and how they're trying to win matches and go about winning them. But at this point, as a road favorite, I'm still interested in Wolves playing really well in front of their home crowd. I'll put the pick'em on my list, though I'll certainly be waiting for a quarter of a goal before kickoff, and I'll lean to under 2 3/4, and I think it gets to 3 before kickoff as well, because we did see a lot of goals in the Wolves win this past weekend, and I don't know that those things are expected moving forward. Moving next to, still in the same window, last matchup of the early 10 a.m. Eastern time window on this Saturday, November 30th. We have Nottingham Forest, a 3/4 goal favorite right now at home to Ipswich Town. Over-under is 2.5. This one just a couple cents more to over. If you're looking for really good juice on soccer, you need to check out BetOnline, SportsBetting.ag, sister sites that will both give you a really nice sign-up bonus. You follow the link in the podcast description on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. Go click that. Let me know you've done it, and I'll make sure to follow up if things go perfectly smoothly or not perfectly. With that said, Nottingham Forest, the 3/4 goal favorite at home. They've been coming down pretty quickly, precipitously from how they started the season. We're up, I think, at one point in 4th place in the Premier League table. We'll see how they do, especially as a dominant type of favorite in this matchup against Ipswich Town. Ipswich coming off the debut match of Ruben Amorim, the new manager at Manchester United, fell behind in the first couple of minutes, but then held on, scored a goal to equalize, and then did a really good job of making it tough on Manchester United. I think we do that same sort of thing on the road at Nottingham Forest. I don't know that I trust Ipswich enough to want to play them without getting a full goal of insurance here, but I'm still not really scared of a Nottingham Forest offense that is living and dying by Chris Wood. Didn't start in the last match last weekend. Things didn't go great for them. I don't really see that stopping moving forward. So give me Ipswich. I lean to the 3/4 of a goal and lean more strongly to under 2.5. As for the nightcap on Saturday, we have West Ham United hosting Arsenal, coming off that big win I already mentioned this podcast on Monday at Newcastle. Well, now they're at home and they get one of the best teams in the world with Arsenal coming into town. Arsenal, 1.25 goal favorite with a little bit more juice on the home side right now. Over unders 2 3/4, juice all the way to over. I do think we'll hit 3 here, and that's a key number in all Arsenal matches. They're great at keeping clean sheets, and clearly they can find a late goal, whether it's referee aided or something that might happen like they did against Nottingham Forest last weekend. I think West Ham are going to be pretty good defensively and will be stuck in just the same way they were at Newcastle, especially at home for Arsenal. I don't believe that West Ham have changed anything. They just got a tall guy, they got a big header to take a lead, and then we're able to hold on to it and then add on to it as well. I think the big question is how many can Arsenal score coming off Champions League midweek. I like all those setups for West Ham United under 2 3/4 goals. Maybe 3 before kickoff. As we move to Sunday, a big slate of matches as well, probably the bigger Sunday you could ever see, especially with the closing match in the English Premier League this weekend. We'll start with Manchester United hosting Everton. Currently, Manchester United a 1-goal favorite at home with slightly more juice than Everton away from home. Over-under is 2 3/4, and it's juice slightly more to under here. Finally, Manchester United total below 3. Didn't know that we'd ever see it, but I guess eventually the market will realize they've gone under like every match for months now, it feels like. Everton on the other side, coming off a goalless draw, I think the only one in the English Premier League this past weekend. They've been not able to score many goals, and they've been keeping a lot of goals out. Jordan Pickford, a great fantasy Premier League asset at this point. I also have him teamed with Ashley Young, if you're into that sort of thing. Certainly doesn't look great, but when they have a goalless draw, it's like the perfect scenario for rostering a goalkeeper and a defender. With that said, I think Everton is a 1-goal underdog. I love that full goal of insurance. We'll see if Albarim can turn a bad lineup into what he was doing at Sporting Clube de Portugal in Lisboa or Lisbon, Portugal. I just don't necessarily see that happening. I think it's got a long way to go. It's going to be a tough road for anyone at Manchester United with the expectations, and especially with the marketplace treating them with this much respect in just a second official match or second Premier League match. Moving next in this same window, Chelsea hosts Aston Villa. Currently, Chelsea a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 3, juice all the way to over. Now, Chelsea aren't scoring as many goals as they were early in the season. Cole Palmer couldn't have stayed that hot as he did. But the big question here is Aston Villa's road defense. They certainly don't score as well away from home, which makes me lean toward under 3. But Chelsea are certainly going to cause some big problems for that Aston Villa high line. Villa's defense just isn't good enough. They don't have the good enough players right now to play in that back line, to play the strategy they do. But I don't think Unai Emery is going to really change that, especially not away from home at Chelsea. I think he's going to roll with what's been working for them, and I think their changes are in due order. So I don't really know that I want much to do with this one besides maybe an under 3, and it looks like 3.25 will be achieved before kickoff, but we'll see if it comes back down to 3. I just don't know there's a lot I want to do here other than fading Aston Villa, and I don't want to do that with a big home favorite. Moving next, Tottenham hosting Fulham in this last of the early 8:30 Eastern time window in England. We'll start Tottenham a 3/4 goal favorite at home right now with more of the juice. Over under is 3.5, juice really heavily to under. Fulham have been scoring a ton of goals this year. They've been playing really well. Their loss last weekend didn't make a lot of sense, but things happen, I guess. Tottenham on the other side, I don't know how they balance coming off a thrashing of Manchester City away from home last weekend, and then seeing how stable they can be, especially after Europa League on Thursday midweek. Fulham's the side I want here. I think I want to see a full goal of insurance before I get involved with fading a Tottenham offense. It's been pretty hot. I think Fulham aren't really a defensive side that's going to shut down Tottenham. So I think that full goal of insurance is important. What's likely a high-scoring game. As for the last matchup, the biggest one of the weekend, really the biggest one, I think, across all of the top 5 European soccer leagues covered on Betting the Pitch. You can find me on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts under that, Betting the Pitch, but also at the Real_G Warner across all social media platforms. With that said, Liverpool, half a goal favorite at home to Manchester City, with all the juice right now after climbing from a 1/4 goal underdog now up to half a goal underdog, as Liverpool are clearly getting bet. Total is 3 on this one, juice almost all the way to over. I don't really see a ton of goals in this matchup. A lot of times when really good teams come together, there's a big fight for the possession of the ball rather than goal scoring opportunities. And I think Manchester City are very likely to go away from home and try to be as pragmatic and un-Pep Guardiola-like as possible. But also, I think Liverpool will be very conservative. That's how they've played under Slot. And I just feel like this price is so right to back Manchester City, get at half of a goal, though it's hard to certainly stomach right now on their big losing streak. But also, I lean to under 3, not seeing a lot of goals in that matchup. As for the best bet on this episode, which will then come for the ultimate best bet, I got to select one from each of the leagues across all of Europe that we're covering on this episode. I'm going to go with that West Ham United under 2.75 goals. I would love for it to be 3, but I don't have that yet at Bet Online. And that's what we're using on this year's episodes. So we'll go with that and see if we could find another winner to add to that lofty, gaudy 13-3 record so far this season. Moving now to Spain, we'll go to La Liga with Barcelona hosting Las Palmas in the early matchup on Saturday. Really odd to see Barca playing in this early window on Saturday, especially after coming off a Champions League match midweek. But Barca, they're 2.5 goal favorites with all the juice. Right now on the road team, Las Palmas, surprisingly, over-under is 4, juice a little bit more to over. One of the bigger totals you'll see in La Liga. I mean, it literally is more than doubling the next matchup we'll talk to in terms of its total. Las Palmas, they used to play a Barca light style, or basically a Barcelona style, trying to possess the ball just without the talent. This time, this is going to be a rude awakening potentially, but I do feel that we've seen Las Palmas play a lot more competitively after they sacked their manager and brought in a new one. I don't know that so much has changed there other than maybe getting a little bit of rub of the green, a little good fortune. But this is going to all be tough to go into Barcelona and try to find a way to keep them out of their net. 4 is a gigantic total, certainly bigger than I made it and way bigger than I expected. I'll lean to Las Palmas getting 4 goals of insurance to try to lose less than 4-0. Of course, if Las Palmas score here, that's a big problem for the under, but certainly be great for the plus 2.5 they're receiving. Gigantic numbers. La Liga clearly giving no respect and no hope for Las Palmas in this matchup. But if they're playing their best, I think an under 4 is worth a look. Moving next to Alaves, hosting Leganes. Currently, Alaves a half a goal favorite in the Basque Country. Almost all the juice right now. Over under is 1.75, as I mentioned, less than half of that Barcelona total. It's 1.75 right now, juice all the way to over. And we did have, I think, a Friday match go off for the 1.75 total as well. Leganes, they're newly promoted side haven't scored any goals. Alaves are up a couple seasons ago, and the team's names literally sound exactly alike right now at this hour to me. But I'll be looking for, Leganés getting a half of a goal feels a little bit interesting just because I don't really trust Alaves. They are better at home, though. I think my biggest interest is that total, but I don't have two, and that's the lowest I'll go, even in La Liga, where it's impossible to find a goal without the officials really helping out with the penalty. Moving next to Espanyol hosting Celta Vigo. Currently, Espanyol a quarter goal underdog at home with more juice. Over under is 2.5, and this is one juice all the way to under. Espanyol have looked really, really poor lately. It's kind of no way to get around that. Got smacked around, had their post-game press conference or post-game interviewee from Espanyol come out and just talk about how awful and how terrible their first 30 minutes were. I think we see a response there, especially at home. But Celta Vigo have been playing really well. Came back from 2-0 down to draw Barcelona in a big match last weekend. I don't think anyone or really a lot of people expected that to happen, but it did. I think the big question is, how does Celta handle that road, and how do they handle that result going on the road now? I'm interested in Espanyol as a home underdog. I think I'm more interested in under 2.5. There's a lot I need to feel a lot better about for backing Espanyol and under here. So it might be one of those I let go and hope for a goalless draw, or actually I'd probably be pissed in that scenario. Moving to the last matchup on Saturday, Real Valladolid hosts Atletico Madrid, coming off a blasting of Sparta Prague away from home in the Champions League. Surprised all around to see that. I think they won 6-0. Valladolid, a 1.25 goal underdog, though, at home with almost all the juice. Over under is 2.5, juice more to the under. Valladolid are just one of those yo-yo clubs that are playing better. They're improving, and I think they're becoming a lot more defensive, playing now with 3 center backs as opposed to a 4-man back line. That's helping them to prevent goals from scoring, and that's a big deal and something they needed to do because they were essentially losing every match from drawing 1-1 to losing a late goal to lose 2-1, or conceding late to lose a win, and that's a big deal for them trying to stay in La Liga. I'm interested in Valladolid getting a goal and a quarter at home, and I lean to under 2.5 as well. I think we're seeing about as much as Atleti can do, and hopefully they use other goals in Champions League on the road in Prague this week, midweek. Moving to Sunday, we'll start with Villarreal hosting Girona. Currently, Villarreal a half a goal favorite at home with more of the juice. Over under is 3, juice really heavily to under. Villarreal matches have been scoring a ton of goals again this season. They started off that way and then had a big under slump. Good for at the real Scourgy Warner, of course. But since then, have been scoring more goals and came back from 2-0 down on the road to Osasuna, which is a big surprise, but were really aided by a ridiculous penalty, I felt, late in that matchup. But welcome to La Liga. Ridiculous penalties are us. Girona on the other side, they've been great and somehow found a way into Champions League, but have not been healthy enough to really perform at that level. They have been seeing some better results lately. Maybe some health has returned to the side, but I think still some big names are missing. I don't really like them as a half of a goal underdog until I feel a little bit more comfortable about how they're playing. And certainly the desire and how to play these matches doesn't want to really fit into that under 3 that we're getting, but it's a pretty big total in the Spanish La Liga, so I'm interested in that under 3 as we speak. Moving next to Real Madrid hosting Getafe, coming off their trip to Liverpool in Champions League midweek. Real Madrid a goal and a half favorite. That'd be hilarious. Real Madrid being a goal and a half underdog, but Real Madrid goal and a half favorite at home. Getafe with all the juice. Over under is 2.5, juice pretty heavily to under right now. Big question are how many goals will Real Madrid score? Of course, if you see them scoring 2, Getafe are unlikely to score themselves. You could still hit the under. The Getafe side would lose. The big question, though, as I wear their kit, almost forgot about literally until you see the logo just in the reflection. The big question is how many goals can Real Madrid score? At this point, I think this will be a low-scoring matchup, but I probably want to see that push on 3, just because I feel like the Real Madrid defense is so banged up that Getafe are unlikely to really do much to it or to threaten it much. But at the same time, 1 goal from Getafe, and then all of a sudden this total is in big, big trouble. Lean to under 2.5, but I think I'm going to wait and see this line climb. Hopefully it will. Though currently the juice is pointed towards under. Moving next to Rayo Vallecano hosting Athletic Club Bilbao. Currently Rayo a pick'em right now, despite playing really poorly in the last few weeks or months. Athletic Club coming off Europa League midweek. They are a pick'em with all the juice. Over under is 2, just all the way to over. So I'm going to stick with and stick to backing Rayo Vallecano at home at Vallecas, part of Madrid where they seem to play better and they use a small pitch to their advantage, big crowd advantage because all the fans or supporters are right on the pitch, and that's a big deal. Certainly it's something that Athletic Club will be used to, but coming off a pretty big week of Europa League, plus also the Derby Vasco against Real Sociedad, which they won 1-0. I think we see a low scoring matchup, so lean to under 2. We'll certainly wait to see if it's at 2.25 before kickoff, but also lean to Rayo at home as a pick'em. To the Sunday nightcap, Real Sociedad, speaking of, hosting Real Betis. Currently, Sociedad a 3/4 goal favorite at home with more juice on Real Betis away from home. Total is 2.25, and it's juiced more to the under right now. Real Betis have been inconsistent. They've played without a striker all season, including the one they have on loan at Celta de Vigo, who they just re-signed in a crazy fashion as he was visiting Real Betis for a La Liga match last weekend or 2 weekends ago. On the other side, Real Sociedad, great at possessing the ball, have not been scoring goals, and that's a big problem as a big favorite and for any sort of overplay. I lean to Real Betis getting that 3/4 of the goal, and also lean to under 2.25 in this matchup on Sunday night. As we move to Monday, we have Sevilla hosting Osasuna. Currently, Sevilla a 1/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 2.25. Juice more to the over. Felt Sevilla were very fortunate to take a lead against Rayo Vallecano, and then we're up a man, and we're literally holding on for dear life. Things are not good at Sevilla right now. Osasuna are significantly weaker away from home outside of Pamplona and outside of El Sadar, but I think they can go into Sevilla, make this a low-scoring matchup, and make this really hard on the home team to go get a victory. So I'll lean to Osasuna getting that 1/4 of a goal, and I'll lean also to the under 2.25 in that matchup as well. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/thereal_G-Warner. Best spot for all my plays, leads right up across all sports. Had a good close to Thursday and a big win on the Raiders on Friday in the NFL. And then also, of course, have our NFL podcast coming out and every Tuesday night, as we have one already published and out there, covering all the standalone games and did as much as we could in the allotted time with A_Snicker on this platform channel, Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, at the Real_G-Warner on YouTube as well. And look out for the 1-minute reel that I'll hopefully be able to have cut for Sunday's matchups in the NFL. As for the best bet in Spain, before I move to the Italian Serie A, I'm just going to keep going with the idea that Atletico Madrid are not a great goal-scoring team. Despite all the money they spent on their side, we'll see if they can do that against the Spanish league side, unlike one from Sparta Prague that doesn't possess the ball whatsoever. So I'll go under 2.5 in that matchup, Valladolid hosting Atletico Madrid. We'll move now to Italy and to Serie A, and I'll start with Como hosting Monza, an early matchup on Saturday morning here in the United States. Currently, Como a 1/4 goal favorite right now with all the juice, jockeying between 1/2 of a goal and a 1/4 goal favorite. Total is 2.25 on this one, juiced really heavily to under. I don't see a lot of goals in this matchup, but that's really because I don't really trust Monza to do much. I don't trust Como to do much, the home favorite. But that's probably giving away my sentiment on this matchup. Is I think Monza have been playing competitively. They've been in the league a bunch of years. Como have spent a ton of money, but they're newly promoted, and they've had a really rough go of it so far. And I feel like they are ticketed to going back to Serie B. Monza getting that 1/4 of a goal, I like. I'll wait to see where this one settles, because it has been jockeying between a 1/4 of a goal and a half. As for the total, I lean under 2.25. As I just don't really trust Como to do much offensively, though I don't trust them either at end of games to close games out, and that does certainly put a total in jeopardy. Next, we'll go to Milan hosting Empoli. Currently, Milan a 1.5 goal favorite right now at home with all the juice on Empoli away from home. Total is 2.75, juice a little bit more to under. Empoli took a lead. We're in great position to win and hit the under 2. Unfortunately, could not hold on, conceded a late goal on a corner kick, and now they go on the road to Milan for another tough battle. But Empoli are doing far better than expected. Look like they're off to a great start to stay in Serie A for another season. That's all they want, while Milan are trying to win Champions League and Scudetto, amongst all other things as well, probably also Coppa Italia. We'll see what Milan can deliver here, especially coming off a tough trip to Slovan Bratislava in Slovakia this week for Champions League. I think that's going to put Empoli in a great position, lean to them getting a 1.5 goals, as that's a gigantic number considering how low scoring their matches have been. I think they've only scored 10 and conceded 10 so far this season, and like 12 giornatas, as they call them in Italy. Lean to under 2.75 in that matchup as well. For the nightcap on Saturday, Bologna hosts Venezia. Currently, Bologna a half a goal favorite with almost all the juice over under 2.25. Juice very heavily to over right now. Venezia with a really tough, heartbreaking loss at home to Lecce on Monday, but unfortunately, or fortunately for them, Bologna had to play in Champions League. So that should be a little bit more helpful, at least a little bit more rest for Venezia as they hit the road and go visit a team that played really well defensively, qualified for Champions League, but really haven't scored goals in a lot of time. So lean to Venezia under 2.25 in that matchup on Saturday evening in Italia. I'll try to say Italy and Italia at the same time. Oops, it's late. Moving to Sunday, we have Udinese hosting Genoa, coming off that late draw at Empoli. Udinese, a half a goal favorite right now. All the juice on Genoa away from home over under is 2.25, and it's juiced more to the under. Now, Genoa, they are a lot of expectations on them coming into the season. They've not delivered on those. They've been scoring more, I think, lately after a really slow start, but sacked their manager, and a lot of things have changed there, of course. Udinese off to a great start. We're at 1 point ahead, leading Serie A. Probably a lot of people are printing out those press clippings, saving those, framing those newspapers, because it's never going to happen again, most likely. But Udinese, I mean, they've been good this year. I don't know that I necessarily want to fade them just because Genoa have been playing so poorly. I think I lean to under 2.25 as a bigger interest in that one. Moving next to Parma hosting Lazio. Parma, who've been a great story coming up from Serie B. They play an aggressive, on the front foot type of football, and that's worked for them, especially at home when the Giants have come to visit. But there's a little bit more tape on them, a little bit more of a scouting report that makes me a little bit worried for them, especially with how well Lazio have played. With that said, I'm interested in Parma because the home result is enough to cover the spread for them right now. So give me that Parma getting 3/4 of a goal. And I don't think I want to do too much with the total at 3 because both these teams want to score goals, and that's not a great combo for an under. Moving next to Torino hosting Napoli. Currently, Torino, a 3/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over under is 2.25. Juice really heavily to under. Napoli, I mean, they're leading the table right now, top of the table, Serie A leaders. And that certainly has helped them. They don't have any international distractions. Torino on the other side, they're just trying to hold on for dear life. They've been playing really poorly. Very low juiced, very low total. Also very juiced at the 2.25, minus 126. I'm seeing right now at Bet Online, probably a full 2 at most other places. I'll be waiting to see this juice improve and see what happens with this total. My biggest interest right now is under 2.25. Torino hosting Napoli. Moving to the next match on Sunday, Fiorentina hosts Inter Milan. Currently, Fiorentina, a 1/4 goal underdog at home. All the juice on Inter away from home. Total is 2.75. Juice really heavily to under. I don't know what to say about this one. Fiorentina have been scoring a ton of goals, very efficient, like low XG for the goals they've been scoring type of numbers. Slow start to the season, but have been really hot lately. The problem is that they have Conference League midweek while Inter Milan are playing Champions League and getting a lot more rest. Certainly going on the road to the Frankie will be a big difference in situation here, and will certainly benefit a Fiorentina side, which I'm sure rotated for in preparation for this matchup as they have all season. So I'll lean to Fiorentina getting that 1/4 goal, but that is about as cheap as you'll see Inter Milan in any sort of matchup that is in Serie A, away from home at a tough place to play. Only a 1/4 goal favorite still, though, says a lot about how maybe the Italian market is expecting the best from Fiorentina in this matchup. As for the total, don't have much of a feel for it, so probably leave 2.75 alone. But I'm very curious to see where the line will end up moving. And at 3, I probably look into under. Last but not least, on Sunday, we have Lecce hosting Juventus. Currently, Lecce, a 3/4 goal underdog at home with more juice on Juve away from home. Total is 2.25 on this one. Juice really heavily to under. That shouldn't surprise anyone. Juve have been scoring very few goals and have been conceding, I think, only 7 so far in Serie A this season. Bunch of goalless draws. They've been drawing a ton, and that's been a big problem for them, especially trying to win the Scudetto. I think Lecce, under a new manager, will be about as stubborn as you can be. We'll see what the home crowd delivers and how many Juve supporters are in it, have infiltrated their way in. But I'll lean to under 2.25 in that matchup, as well as Lecce if they move to a full goal underdog. Last but not least, Monday, we have Roma hosting Atalanta. Both clubs playing in Europe midweek. Roma currently a 1/4 goal underdog at home right now, a little bit more juice than Atalanta away from home. Total is 2.5 in this one, juice pretty heavily to over. We haven't seen Roma score goals at all. We haven't seen them play well either this season. They're on their third manager. It's not been great. I think the Roma side is probably the interest because they're at home and have a big crowd behind them on a Monday night. But I think my biggest interest is under 2.5, just because it goes alongside with Roma struggling to score, playing well at home, and that meaning that Atalanta might struggle themselves. As for my best bet in Serie A and Italy, I'm going to go with that Bologna Venezia under 2.25 goals, as I think that's going to be really tough for Bologna to come off of Champions League and score a bunch. So I'll go under 2.25 there as my best bet in Italia. As we move now to the French Ligue 1, and then we'll get to the German Bundesliga and ultimate best bet. Get out of here, and I'll be waking up in a very short amount of time to try to go through all these matchups as well. We'll start with Stade Rennais hosting Saint Etienne. Currently Rennes a 1-goal favorite at home with almost all the juice. Over under is 2.75, juice all the way to under. So I guess we're seeing some buyback, not expecting a ton of goals in this matchup. Rennes are a team I want to fade, and I like the idea of being against them as a 1-goal favorite. I don't know that Saint Etienne's defense has been good enough for me to trust, but they got a big win last weekend, kept a clean sheet against Montpellier. Big response after, I guess they played pretty well defensively on the road at Lyon in the big rivalry derby match as well. So those are good signs, and Saint Etienne need to show that as they're trying to stay up after a very historic French club was relegated a couple seasons ago. As for Rennes, they were really dominating a lot of French football and have been putting big players across all of Europe. Well, they've kind of run out of that talent. So the more I talk about it, the more interested I am in Saint Etienne and also in the under 2.75. Moving next to Stade Brestois hosting Strasbourg. Currently Brest a quarter goal favorite at home, a little bit more juice. Over under is 2.5, and it's juice slightly more to under. Unfortunately, Strasbourg, they are making critical mistakes that change matches every single match they play. I think the last two I've seen, they've had 1-0 leads that were then squandered and then lost matches on big defensive mistakes, including an own goal this past weekend. I think I love the talent that Strasbourg have, but unfortunately they don't have enough of a refined talent at this point. It's basically all bad sugar, not any of the refined sugars. And it's not something I want to deal with at this point, especially against the Brest side who've looked very, very, very good. I don't know if there's a better way to put it. They've looked great. They've performed really well in Champions League. They did have a tough trip to Barcelona midweek. I guess for that reason, I'll put Strasbourg on my list, getting a quarter of a goal, but it's a very cheap price, and I'd like to stay away from it if I possibly can on Saturday morning. Here, we'll move next to PSG hosting Nantes in the nightcap on Saturday evening in Paris. Currently, PSG a 1.75 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 3.25, juice more all the way to under right now. Nantes are in big trouble. I don't know if Antoine Colbert had survived this loss last weekend, but unfortunately, things are not going well. Nantes have been got off to a great start this season, but goals have dried. Defense has made some big mistakes, and they've been really unsure about who they're playing, kind of moving away from the Palois, Castelletto, like spine in their center defense, and now they're trying to figure out what the heck to do. Not a great situation to go into PSG. Yes, coming off Champions League and a trip to Bayern München, but still, I think there's a lot of issues there, especially on the Nantes side. So I don't really know if there's much for me to do on that nightcap in France. Move to Sunday. Montpellier hosts Lille. Montpellier, half a goal underdog at home. All the juice on Lille away from home. Total is 2.75. Juice more to the over. And this is a big question. How much does Lille have in the tank after playing an important Champions League match midweek? Now they go on the road to a really struggling Montpellier in their club's 50th season, trying to celebrate it by not going to Ligue 2. And my interest here, based on the situation, is to back Montpellier. I am very afraid of fading, Lille at this point, though. So not sure that I want much to do there. Lean to, I guess, to under as well. But I think that's really just hoping that Lille are not playing their best on this Sunday matchup, which, I mean, with Champions League, it's about as much as you can rest, even though it's the earliest start in Liga this Sunday. Moving next to Lyon, hosting Nice, two clubs playing in Europa League. Lyon, a half a goal favorite right now at home, a little bit more juice. Over under is 2.75, juice all the way to over. Lyon have been playing a lot better. I think they're a better team. They're at home. That doesn't give me a lot of reason to play Nice, and doesn't really make me interested in the under 2.75 here either. At 3, maybe I'm a little bit more interested. But honestly, I feel like Lyon are going to try to outscore everyone. I don't know. Their defense is great. Nice probably will go on the road and try to defend here. So if you want to back Nice, you maybe want to look to under in that matchup. Next, go to Le Havre hosting Angers, a battle of very much relegation-stricken, relegation-fighting squads. Currently, Le Havre at home, only a quarter goal favorite with more juice on Angers, surprisingly away from home. Totals 2.25, juice more to the under. Le Havre have been playing well, getting results lately. I don't know that it's been deserved or beautiful, probably neither of those things, but ultimately they look a lot better to me than Angers and are at home in this matchup. Angers look really cheap, which seems like the French market is very interested in backing them. Yes, they played well last weekend, but I don't think they were able to get any sort of point out of a trip on the road to Angers, another team fighting relegation. So I think I'll be waiting and seeing how well Angers play, because this line is certainly suggesting that the market, the whole world, is backing Angers in this matchup. Last in that early window, or I guess middle of the day window in France on Sunday, is Toulouse hosting Auxerre, two teams that can score goals. Toulouse, a 3/4 goal favorite with more of the juice. Over under is 2 3/4, and the juice more to the under here, surprisingly. I think my interest here is to back Auxerre getting that 3/4 of goal. I'd love to see them move to a 1-goal underdog. Doesn't really look like the juice will point us there, but maybe we'll get there. Total is 2 3/4. I actually like over in that one. So Joe Dollar, there's your over in this episode. Trying to get one for you in every podcast. Just kidding. But 2 over teams meeting certainly will make you want to lean that direction. Last but not least is the battle of Marseille and Monaco. And surprisingly to me, Monaco are a favorite on the road at the Stade Orange Velodrome. Though if you've been listening to this podcast, Betting the Pitch and Apple Podcasts and on Spotify or at the Real_G Warner on YouTube, you certainly have heard me talking about how well Marseille play away from home compared to how well they play at home. I'm not sure they play well in either place. They never seem to live up to the expectations, which are always way too high. But it's saying something to me to see Monaco a favorite away from home. I also think they're a side that plays better away from home because they have less expectations. Of course, odds makers put in a home field advantage in Liga and really any competition, and Monaco don't get much support from their home crowd, but they are a good goal scoring team, as are Marseille. I think the total at 3 feels like we could see some fireworks in this one, as both want to outscore the other. But I got to say, I'm interested in Marseille as a pick'em at home. For my best bet in France in this weekend's episode, I'm going to go with that Saint-Etienne under 2 3/4 goals, just backing that there's some success with that home team and how well they've been playing defensively over the last few weeks. We'll see how many Rennes can score, because I don't really trust the Rennes offense. And we get to the Bundesliga for the last portion of this episode. Let's go to Werder Bremen hosting VfB Stuttgart, coming off their Champions League match midweek. Currently, Werder Bremen a 1/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over under is 3, juice more to the under. Stuttgart are very talented, going to control this game, but Werder Bremen have been, I think, other than struggling to score goals at home, they've been pretty impressive. So I lean to that 1/4 of a goal at home, and I lean to under 3 as it goes along with Stuttgart controlling the ball, but having trouble scoring away from home. Moving next to Leipzig hosting VfL Wolfsburg. Currently, Leipzig a 3/4 goal favorite, juices split both ways. Totals 2 3/4, choose pretty heavily to over. I'll be waiting to see if we get to 3 on this one. I don't trust Wolfsburg to score goals. They're one of the most efficient offenses in the German Bundesliga because they score goals without earning them, I don't think. And that's something I plan to bet a lot this season if I have that opportunity. Right now, we don't have the 3 yet, but I'll be waiting to see that on Saturday morning here in the United States. But Leipzig, they've got a long way to go for me to trust their offense, and that's probably another reason to go under in that matchup. Moving next to Sports Club Freiburg hosting Borussia Mönchengladbach. Currently, Freiburg a 1/2 goal favorite right now at home with all the juice on Gladbach, and this number has been falling pretty quickly down, only in the Gladbach direction. Totals 2 3/4. She's pretty heavily to over right now. Now, Gladbach have not been good away from home for a while, but they look like they're a club that have kind of figured it out. They made some good signings. Frank Honorat coming in from the French Ligue 1, I believe with Reims, or was it Brest? Anyway, he's been awesome. And Tim Kleindienst might be the signing of the German Bundesliga season. He's scoring goals every game. It seems like he's deserved more than he's had as well. And I got to say, Sport Club Freiburg, club I follow closest in the German Bundesliga, they just haven't looked great to me. And I'm not as afraid of going against them, especially with a road draw being all I need to win a full bet. Big question, though, Gladbach has had really bad road splits for what feels like the entire time I've been following the Bundesliga, 5 or 6 years now. But at this point, I think Gladbach are worth a look, especially away from home. So I'll put that half of a goal on my list. Moving next to Football Club Augsburg. They're hosting VfL Bochum. Currently, Augsburg, a 3/4 goal favorite with a little bit more juice on Bochum away from home. Totals 2 3/4. This one uses split both ways, and I think that reflects a Bochum side that hired a new manager after sacking an idiot, and they've gone very defensive, and I think that's played out very well to the under ever since. I see no reason to change that. Bochum under 2 3/4 is my interest. I don't really have much interest in playing the road underdog, though I think it all kind of correlates to low goal scoring to potentially play Bochum as well. I just don't trust Augsburg. They're going to try to literally give the ball to Bochum and have them make enough mistakes. And I think Bochum will play long balls and just won't let anyone near their goal as much as they can for the full 90 minutes. Moving to the last matchup of this early window onslaught in the German Bundesliga, we have Union Berlin hosting Bayer Leverkusen. Currently, Union, a 3/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over-under is 2.5, just a little bit more to over. I'm still looking very much to be against Bayer Leverkusen. I mean, incredible that they were able to cover as a 2-goal favorite last weekend, despite falling behind 2-0 after 20 minutes. I honestly was feeling good about a 13-1 underdog or 13.5-1 underdog in Heidenheim. But the nice part is there's a lot more defensive, I think, ability in the Union side than there is in Heidenheim, who looked like they were a step slow or like a mile slow for a lot of the decisions that ended up scoring goals. Leverkusen had Champions League midweek. They're going to have to try to find a way to go into Union, into the east side of Berlin, and find a way to score goals. I don't think it's going to happen, so I lean to under and to Union getting 3/4 of a goal in that matchup. We'll move last but not least on this Saturday is Der Klassiker in the top Spiel position. Borussia Dortmund they're moving between 3/4 of a goal and 1 goal underdog at home to Bayern Munchen. Total is 3 1/4 in this one, and it's just a little bit more to under. We got a very expensive one right now available on Dortmund, and I think that's an important number to have. You really want that full goal of insurance if you're going to back Dortmund, and the place where you back them is at home. I lean to Dortmund getting that 1 goal. I think the total is tough for me to predict because you really probably want to see an under if you're going to back Dortmund as a home underdog. But their gigantic price here, Bayern Munchen coming off Champions League, Borussia Dortmund coming off Champions League. The nice part, though, is Dortmund are at home. That usually decides how things go. Last portion of this episode, but not least, is to get through the Sunday portion of the German Bundesliga card. We'll start with Mainz 05 hosting TSG Hoffenheim. Currently, Mainz a 0.5 goal favorite at home with all the juice in Hoffenheim away from home. Total is 2 3/4 in this one, juice all the way to over. Hoffenheim coming off Europa League midweek, their second match under a new manager, lured away from Sturm Graz in Austria. I have not been that impressed by him nor Austria's Sturm Graz in Champions League, though clearly a different level. And this is going to be a tough trip to go on the road to Mainz. I don't really trust Mainz to score a ton of goals. They did hit the over themselves alone on the road last weekend at Kiel. I think it was at Kiel. Holstein Kiel in the north of Germany, newly promoted side, which we'll get to, or I guess they played on Friday. Sorry, it's a Saturday podcast for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I think my biggest interest in this one is the under 2 3/4. We'll wait to see on Sunday if it is able to climb to that all-important 3. Last but not least, we'll go to Football Club Heidenheim hosting Eintracht Frankfurt. Currently, Heidenheim a 0.5 goal underdog at home with almost all the juice. Over-under is 2 3/4, just pretty heavily to under. The only thing I can think of here is to play Heidenheim as a side, getting that 0.5 goal. I don't like the setup against the Eintracht Frankfurt youth, speed, pace, talent, all that sort of things up front. But I do like home underdogs, and that's my biggest interest there. Don't think I have much interest in the total, as I think that's going to be a very hard one to get through. And so now we've reached and gone through all of the bettable options on this week's Bundesliga card, French Ligue 1 card, Serie A in Italy card, La Liga in Spain, and the English Premier League. So we are ready to give out some best bets and try to find some winners and ultimately try to climb that ultimate best bet record from 13-3 to 14-3 after a winner with Juventus getting a quarter of a goal on the road last weekend at Milan. I guess things I need to plug. So if you haven't listened to NFL podcast, go do that with _Schnicker. There are pregame.com, college football, and college basketball podcasts out, or college basketball will be posted before the Players Era tournament stuff happens on Saturday, November 30th. It's late night with the real _G Warner as always, but look out for that podcast. And apology if you're looking at this video. I cannot keep my hair down, so it is what it is. And let's get into our ultimate best bet. Actually, before I do that, I didn't give out the German Bundesliga pick, so I might as well do that. And that is Borussia Dortmund, a 1-goal underdog at home to Bayern München. Okay, so for the ultimate best bet portion of the show, in case you haven't been listening this whole time or doing the 40 or so minutes we've been on, I basically go through my favorite pick in each of the top 5 leagues in case you just joined on. And then I pick my favorite from each of the leagues. I go by one of those and I grade the podcast for that week by it. We're 13-3 so far this year. Going to try to keep that 81% streak going. It's going to be hard, but we're going to try our best. So stick with us and let's do it. All right, it's time to hit play. So let's go. Hey, this is real _G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet. We're 13-3 year to date, 81%. Trying to keep that number going and improving, all going in the correct direction. I go through the top 5 European soccer leagues. I give you my best bets for each of the games, my biggest interest. But on this portion of the show, the ultimate best bet, I only select one from each country and one at the end of the episode. So for the English Premier League, I like West Ham under 2.75 goals. In La Liga in Spain, I like Real Valladolid under 2.5 goals. In Serie A in Italy, I like Venezia under 2.25 goals. In Ligue 1 in France, I like Saint Etienne under 2.75 goals. And the German Bundesliga in Der Klassiker, I like Borussia Dortmund, a 1-goal underdog at home to Bayern München. So now it's time for the ultimate best bet. We're 13-3, last 16, 81% on the season because that's how long the season's gone so far. Let's go Borussia Dortmund +1 in Der Klassiker. I think we see a big inspired Borussia Dortmund event and Bayern München struggle away from home. That'll do it in this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you have a great evening. And hopefully we'll see you bright and early tomorrow. And make sure you hit subscribe, follow, and hit my Patreon, patreon.com/real_G Warner.
Recording stopped.